The camera was a 21st birthday present from my parents, and I remember staying up till about 12:05 in order to open the parcel. It was a lovely present. When I went to Vietnam, end of 1968, I obviously took the camera with me. You take photographs whenever you go to somewhere different, I guess, and so I was quite happy to take it around and just take the odd photograph whenever I was going somewhere different.
This barrel held the immediate future for 40,300 young Australians who have registered for national service since January the 25th.
I was called up in the National Service ballot of 1965, but and my birthday came out, so I was selected for the National Service. I actually entered the Army in 1967 in recruit training at Puckapunyal. In many ways I was quite happy to go because it had been part of my family. Both father and grandfather had been in the Army, and while it wasn't made a big thing of or anything like that, it was always something that I knew that they'd been to, and was pleased in a way that I could go.
I knew Dad had gone to Vietnam, but I'd never really asked him about it. I thought he'd been a medic, so I just figured it was too horrible to talk about.
I sent the films back to my parents to be developed. Most of them were slides. When I came back, I just didn't want to look at anything or know about Vietnam at all, so they stayed in a box, and there they remained, and I thought they'd been lost.
Our group of pathology technicians were called vampires, but the name vampires was actually widened to include anyone who served at the field hospital, and our badge that we've got shows a vampire bat to indicate that we took blood.
When I came back from Vietnam, the television was saturated with Vietnam images, material.
My knowledge of Vietnam came from a steady diet of popular culture, mostly American movies. We'd never watched these around Dad.
You headed north. Where are you going to?
Not shrink.
Really, you gotta be careful, Jack. That's some heavy stuff up there. That's like Newark after dark. You gotta watch out. That's some heavy shit going down, baby.
I took over packets of seeds. I got my father to send them over to me. I tried to grow some around the base in Vietnam. I wanted to give it to one of the local farmers on the way into Vung Tau, so I walked in one day along the road, and I walked off the road through the farmer's farm towards the house I could see in the distance, and he came out to me, and I said, "Toi rak we mong do kap pong," and he looked at me in absolute amazement. He didn't have a clue what I was saying. That was supposed to be, "I'm very pleased to meet you, sir." But he didn't know. He didn't know that, and nor would anybody else. And I tried to hand him a packet of seeds, and he went, "No," and recoiled in horror away from me. And I thought, what have I done? And only later did I realise that if someone had seen a Viet Cong sympathiser, and there were many around, had seen him receiving something from an Octaloy, an Australian, a foreigner, he would have been in great trouble. Now, and no wonder he didn't want me to come any closer. It was possibly signing his death warrant. At one stage, the Prime Minister, I think it was Mr. Gorton at the time, came to visit the hospital, and came in to talk to the soldiers that had been wounded. He started from the other end of the ward, in together with the commander of the base, and senior officers were with him, and moved around asking the soldiers how they'd been wounded and how they were feeling, and congratulating them and so forth, and gradually was moving up the ward towards me. And I was wondering what I was going to say. Did I accidentally burnt my leg making a cup of coffee, and he got infected playing volleyball, and I was starting to panic. I couldn't get out of bed and didn't know what to do. But fortunately, they were obviously running behind schedule, so he had to say, "Okay, I'm sorry boys, I've got to go now." Didn't get round to talking to me, which was just as well. Okay, now this little boy, I'm not sure where that was taken, but obviously we were conversing in fluent Vietnamese, and he was quite interested in talking to me. He probably thought, what a funny person that is. He probably thought, my goodness me, this man's trying to say something, I don't know what he's saying. I probably said, "Toi rat we mong do kap pong," and he would have looked at me and laughed. Probably exactly what happened, actually. Probably thought it was most interesting. About time a big person learned how to speak properly. In South Vietnam, on Radar Hill, I was walking up through the bush and came across two monks in their orange robes, probably a little bit older than me. They were quite fluent in English, but also in Vietnamese and in Lao and Cambodian. And they'd moved up there, I think to perfect their understanding of the different languages and cultures of the countries. They'd moved up through areas that at that stage were being bombed by Americans to interdict the movement of Viet Cong down from along the Ho Chi Minh's trail, so they would have been at great risk of their life all their trip, and I suspect they were given donations of rice to eat at the local Buddhist temple, and but apart from that they lived in this disused bomb shelter. One of my leave breaks, I went out to some of these villages and went out with the missions into the field, trying to show the Vietnamese how to grow carrots and how to grow dwarf beans. And we were having to carry water from the paddy fields into and water these crops by hand, and the little Vietnamese boys thought it was great because they could get to ride in the back of the jeep and help to water it, and they could get some sweets and whatever. And then over the fence, and these poor little carrots were desperately trying to survive, and mostly they died. And over the fence about 50 yards away was a Vietnamese garden growing taro, growing Vietnamese cabbage, you name it, but luxurious, enormous plants. They would have looked at our effort and laughed and laughed. And in terms of any help, it was actually, must have just good for their sense of humour, because we didn't do much else. So a lot of us go into countries thinking, yes, we've got the right way, we can help, we can do things. In actual fact, we don't know the half of it. We just haven't got a clue. Even with the best of intentions, you can make an awful mess.
Say